Hi guys, welcome back to TP Smart Repairs. We're doing another diagnostic video today. We have in a Volkswagen Transporter for an intermittent engine management light. So this vehicle, when I drove it in this morning, didn't have an engine management light on. However, if the engine management light has ever stored, there will be a fault code stored within the managing system. So I put on Otis, which is diagnostics for Volkswagen, and confirm that there is a fault code P048C00, exhaust pressure control valve, position sensor, switch, circuit range performance. In my experience, a range performance fault is where there is a motor or a flap and it's not in a position that it has been requested to be in. So it could be that the motor is stuck, the flap is stuck, and the ECU is just recognizing that's not where it should be at this point. So what we're going to do is carry out a check through self-diagnosis, and we're going to confirm how many times the fault code's stored, check the voltage that it's stored at, because it could be as simple as a flat battery causing this issue, or it could be something else. I'll just wait for this to load up. So we've got the fault code loaded up here, and what we are looking for is, if I can drag it out. So this where it says active is signifying that the fault code is not currently active. We know that, the light wasn't on earlier. However, down here is our event codes. If it lets us drag it, it doesn't. But we can see if we scroll through it, the fault code has happened, frequency counter of 53 times. The date it started was on the 21st of December 2025. And these are just our little values, so we're trying to see if we can see anything that doesn't look quite right. So we've got values here. So we've got the exhaust flap, actuator, bank 1, position, feedback, the specified value. It should have been at 0%, so that's either open or shut. And the actual value, so the position it was in, was 94. So it was, again, it was the complete opposite way. So if it should have been shut, it was open. And if it was open, it should have been shut. So what we're going to do is come back out of this test, out of this info, and we're then going to run the test. So top of the test is the exhaust flap control unit. If we click that and perform test. So it's asking, is there a bulletin? That's something we can check afterwards. So we're going to say yes. Shall this test be run according to the bulletin? Yes. So we need to make sure we've got a charger attached, so I'm going to go and do that. And we can press installation location and it will tell us where it lives. I'm pretty sure it's this one here, 14. Yeah, there you go, look, 14. So that's in the bottom of the exhaust. Okay, so I'm going to turn the ignition off, put a battery tester on it, charger, sorry, and then we're going to go to that exhaust. So we've confirmed that we have the battery charger connected to the vehicle. What we do need to do is get a wiring diagram. So we're going to go into the info here, current flow again, and we're going to look for engine, which tends to be at the bottom. There we go. Now, within this, I'm going to be looking for J883. So if I get my keyboard and press Control F, let's see if it works. Control F, yeah, there we go. J883. This will take us through to exactly where that flap motor is. If I then bring that shut, I now have my wiring diagram here. So what we're going to do is go back to our diagnostics and say we're ready. Turn the ignition on. Repeat. Switch ignition off. So we've got to disconnect the connector. So the first step of our diagnostics is to check the plug and wiring. I have noticed on previous vehicles I've worked on that rats tend to like to chew these sensors' looms. However, this one looks okay. So all I'm going to do is unplug it. It says, check back there, that looks okay. Actually pull the plug off, make sure there's no water intrusion. That looks pretty dry. The other thing to check is the pins in there, and they look okay too. So first step, check there, all looks okay. Now what we'll do is look back on the laptop. So didn't see any issues with the seating, nothing wrong with the pins, no corrosion, pins look straight, no water ingress, no oil or grease, no loose contacts from what we can see. So we're going to press done, continue. Has a fault been found? No. Leave it separated, switch on the ignition. There you go. Now it's asking us to connect the contacts of wire 1 to wire 2, so our reference voltage to our signal wire. If I go back to info, you'll see pin 1 and pin 2 here, blue and white. So pin 1 is our 5-volt feed to the sensor to wake it up, and then pin 2 is a signal, so that's how it knows what position it is in via voltage. So what we're going to do is bridge out pin 1 to pin 2, and what this will do is basically put 5 volts down the signal wire. Well, the ECU knows that it should be looking for 5 volts. So the ignition is on, and we are going to use these multimeter leads and a wire. So it's telling us to bridge out sensor 1, the pin 1 to pin 2, and what that's going to do is send the 5 volts from the reference down the signal. Well, this test is actually set up for it to confirm what we've done, shows that the wiring's okay. So it's expecting to see that 5 volts back down that line of the signal. So in us doing this, it will recognise hopefully 5 volts, hopefully we've not got a broken wire. And as soon as it does that, it will then say the wiring's okay, it's probably the valve, all going well. And easiest way to know which one is pin 1 is the colours, because we know pin 1 was blue, pin 2 was white. So I'm going to pin that out, and pin that out. There you go. So that is now shorted out. And we're going to lower it down and see what the laptop says. So once it's done, press complete. So it's saying to replace the flap. So that tells us that the wiring for that check was okay. What I'm going to do is press done, continue, and it tells us just to put it all back to normal. End of test. So I'm going to turn the ignition off. And then what's really important is that we do also check that there's no bulletins out. So something to check, to remember, is this fault code P048C. If I then go into TPI, and we're going to look up the TPIs. If I then type in P048C, P048C, we have a hit. So there is something to do with a software update for this fault code. So if I read through it, it's actually, that was a recall. So we need to check, it's saying under certain conditions, water can build up in the injector causing an injector issue. However, further down, it says there's more improved diagnosis of the exhaust flap, which we were just working on. So they're saying the remedy for this fault code is a new software. So even though the laptop told us to change that part, it's actually a software issue, and that's why having this online ODIS is like a lifesaver for us. Otherwise we might have changed that part and it would not have required it and the fault could have come back. So what we're going to do is scroll through all of this and make sure that it's something we can do. So we're going to get down to the bit where it matters for the technician. So I know this is a mono turbo, so there we go, we've got a fault code address, diagnostic address to code in the new software. So we're just checking what our software number is. So we're a 6.1, so if we have these two software versions, that means that it's affected and it requires the new software version, which is 267, and it could be whatever number after. So we come out of this, we go back to here, and we are in 1167, so we are affected. We need to do a software update. Okay, so as part of the repair for this vehicle, we are going to be doing a software update. So we need to find where that is, adapting software. And then we're going to go via the diagnostic address, which was 0001. So part of the prerequisites to doing a software update is you need to have a stable battery, which we've got the charger on. You have to have the hazards on, and you have to have the driver's door open. So we are now going to type in that code that we saw earlier. We're going to apply it. So in that paperwork off camera, it actually tells you to check if the software update has been done. I looked on our digital service portal, and it hasn't. The last thing it had done was a brake fluid service by us. So it's never had this software update done, which we also knew anyway because the control unit software version was behind what it currently is here. So this vehicle's just not been to the main dealer in a long time because the main dealer would have picked that up as part of their due diligence. This bit can take a while, so I will get Amy to pause it and let you know when we're ready. So here it is, it's picked up that the engine electronics, we are requesting to flash the software version. So we are going to click Done Continue, and we'll probably get a little bar across the bottom to tell us how long it's going to take. So as you can see here, it's taken the new software. We're going to click Done Continue. It's transmitting it, so this will be speaking to the servers for VW to let them know that this vehicle has had its update. Really handy having this tool. See, we can do software updates on VW, Audi, all the VAG group really. So you don't have to go to main dealer. This one just came in for an email and it is now going to be repaired. So we have actually updated it to software version 3039. That is probably even further than what that software version was on the bulletin. So there will have been more updates between then and now. Most important thing is just to check that the van starts. Nice, and the light is out, so we are all good. As you can see, this one's just cost a bit of time, so no parts required. However, with a fault code and no access to dealer information, this could have cost this customer money that he wouldn't have had to have spent, and another trip to us or any garage, whoever would have potentially looked at it. They will have had to have potentially sent the old part away or the replaced part away to make sure that it wasn't the part. Maybe an auto electrician to get the wiring checked. The cost could have just been not endless, but quite substantial. So luckily we have that tool, and hopefully any of you people who own VAG Group vehicles will hear about this and can use us.